We'll get to Jim Ryan from ABC News in just a second about this floating border barrier controversy. But, that's not the only important story we're covering. I hold in my hand the complete map of the United States' favorite junk foods of 2023, broken down by state. Illinois.
Where are we at?
Illinois, our favorite junk food.
Mm-hmm.
Pringles, Sour Patch Kids, and Milk Duds. Are you out of your frickin' mind? Absolutely not. I refuse to accept that.
I agree with you. I refuse to accept that. They didn't ask me.
Sour Patch Kids, Milk Duds. I haven't had a Milk Dud since I was 11.
Mm-hmm. Why Milk Duds?
You like the Milk Duds?
Milk Duds and Whoppers, yeah. I like them
you
both.
like the Milk Duds?
Wasn't that the morning show on B96, Milk Duds and Whoppers? Sour Patch Kids, my grandkids have those.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And Pringles are fine, occasionally if there's literally nothing else to eat.
Right. Mm-hmm. I agree.
I agree, too.
So, that's Illinois.
Who picked those?
I don't know. It's outrageous. Hey, Jim, after you finish covering the important stories, I want you to go and cover this, okay?
Sure, we'll do it.
Jim, what's your home state?
Texas.
Oh.
Let's go to Texas, Jim. Let's find out if you agree with this take. Texas favorite snacks.
Okay.
Or favorite junk foods, I should say.
Okay.
Sour Patch Kids again.
Yeah.
The whatchamacallit candy bar. Can anybody even name what's in it?
Nougat.
Chocolate, probably.
Yeah, it's chocolate. Anything that has rich nougat in it, of course, is healthy. And Texas, you guys are also being linked to Funyuns.
Funyuns. Yeah.
Funyuns are the fake onion rings?
Terrible. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think they're supposed to be real. I don't know if they are or not, but they don't look real, they don't smell real, they don't taste real, but man, are they delicious.
Funyuns, once again, much like Pringles, if there's no other food available, get on it.
Yeah. Right. Corn nuts. How about corn nuts?
Yeah, they're not on the list anywhere.
No, corn nuts are good, but again, call your doctor.
Yeah, call your dentist. They're not good.
And your dentist, yeah. All right, it's 6:39. Jim Ryan, ABC News. These floating barriers in the Rio Grande, huge controversy in the last week. The federal government tells Texas, you got a couple of days to get them out of there or you're going to be in trouble. We don't know what that means. The governor says what to that?
He says, I'll see you in court. He's promising to carry this effort all the way to the Supreme Court. And, and that may be where it ends up eventually. We're talking about some fairly serious allegations made by the federal government against the state of Texas under the Rivers and Harbors Act, which prohibits the creation of any obstruction to the navigable water, capacity of waters. So, and certainly this is one thing that this barrier does in the middle of the Rio Grande. It's kind of the background of this thing. These are huge. They're 4 foot high, bright orange plastic balls. Essentially, if you think of the lane markers in a swimming pool, the blue and white little floats that are running down there on a rope. Well, this is kind of the same thing, except they're huge. They're tethered to the bottom of the Rio Grande by meshing, so you can't swim under it, you can't crawl over it because it'll just roll forward and keep you from doing that. It's only 1,000 feet at this point, but if it works there, then the expectation, Steve, is that it would be extended beyond that point along the Rio Grande.
What do Texans think? I mean, what do folks on the border think? I mean, the easy Republican thing here is the Biden people have failed on the border. We got to do something. Is that generally the take?
Well, I suspect it depends upon who you're asking down there on the border. If it's immigrant rights advocates, they see this as a horrible thing, that people are going to drown because of it. They make it to the shore and face concertina wire. But if you're a landowner or a conservative Republican, you think it's a great idea. Abbott's ostensibly this is intended to keep people from coming into the country illegally between the Border Patrol checkpoints. Abbott says that if you want to come in, present yourself at a Border Patrol point on a bridge, make your asylum request, and then it'll be handled in a legal way. He says he says he's not so concerned, Abbott, with migrant families coming up from Central or South America trying to come into the country even illegally. He says he's more concerned about drugs and guns and weapons that are coming into the country that way.
Well, I mean, that's political, in my opinion, not yours. You're a reporter and a fine journalist.
Thank you.
That's political BS. I mean, if somebody's trying to crawl over one of these barriers, you're not frisking them for guns and fentanyl on the way. So, it may be migrants, it may be people trying to get in, and I continue to spout this line, but I believe it's logical when these coyotes are lying to these people who are fleeing countries, telling them, Shangri-La, dead ahead, give me all your money and your possessions. They're not monitoring CNN and ABC and us and other people. They don't know from the truth.
Right.
Well, true, and so there is still a very thriving business, this underground industry of smuggling people into the country. It happened again this past week. A truck in San Antonio was pulled over. 12 people were crammed in, not into the trailer, but into the cab of this thing, a big sleeper cab, and 12 people were in there, people from Mexico, Honduras, and Guatemala, and now including a pregnant woman. And they were sneaked into the country, you're right, by these coyotes. So, yeah, it's despite the best efforts there, it's still a thing.
So it's a fair question to ask, and it needs to be asked louder. And I don't know, the Texas governor's not bringing this up as an appropriate angle as well. Where's the Mexican government on the border? Is the Mexican government covering their side of the border with these folks, or are they just looking the other way?
Well, I think they're working on it, and I think that, as well as anybody does, that the relationship between the United States and Mexico is not the best that it's ever been right now. There are strained relations, and part of it is this continued dispute over the border. The Mexican government plans to send some observers up to the Rio Grande to take a look at this thing to see exactly what it is, what this border barrier, this river barrier looks like, to see if it violates any treaties. The thinking is that it might violate a treaty that goes all the way back to 1944 between the U.S. and Mexico, and again deals with navigation and waters and water rights. So, yeah, it'll be interesting. A lot of posturing, probably. Optics, not so great. Will it go to the Supreme Court? Maybe, maybe not. But at 2 o'clock this afternoon, the feds will be filing this lawsuit unless the thing is taken out of the water.
Yeah, so I was just reading that's 1 o'clock Central Time to take it out of the water. It's not going to happen. It would take longer to take it out of the water, and then it'd roll it up by 1 o'clock.
Yeah, and the governor has made no indication that he plans to do that at all. So I think it will still be a thing tomorrow, and the posturing continues, Jane.
As this goes forward, the border remains in what state? We were told that things had actually calmed down to a great degree, but there's been, look, the cowards in Congress, again, my words, the cowards in Congress haven't acted on this for 30 years, longer than that, since Reagan's move in the 80s. So this is a bipartisan problem that's not being solved.
Yeah, well, it is, and it's a lot of it is just logistics. At least from Texas' perspective, 1,200 miles of the U.S.-Mexico border lies along Texas, and that border here is the Rio Grande. That makes things even a little more complicated. But you're right; it's a sticky situation. It's one that's difficult to solve, maybe impossible to solve. But and it remains kind of a big political, if not football, certainly a topic.
So the image that the far right wants you to believe it's an absolute zoo. It's a nightmare. People crawling over the wall, crawling over the balls, getting into the country any possible way, bringing their guns, bringing their fentanyl. But the far left is also telling you, no, it's Shangri-La. Everything's fine. It's just good people trying to get in. The truth, I assume, is somewhere in the middle to the best of your reporting.
Yeah. Yeah, somewhere in the middle there, and it's a sliding scale that moves up and down. The numbers have dropped off, and these are hard numbers coming from Customs and Border Protection. Have dropped off considerably since Title 42 went away. I think a lot of folks were expecting that suddenly there would be this rush of people running across the border once Title 42 was replaced by Title 8. Well, that didn't happen. In fact, the numbers have gone down quite dramatically since then. So from May until now, we're seeing far fewer people trying to come into the country illegally, at least asylum seekers.
It's Jim Ryan, ABC News. Thank you for all that, and go have some Funyuns.
Yeah.
Wash it down with a Mountain Dew or something.
That's exactly right. All right, thank you, man.
See you guys.
That's Jim Ryan at ABC News.